Why buy your next vehicle from Community Motors of Mason City?
Great service from 3 locations. Community on Monroe, Community Motors Westside, and Mason City Ford. 10 new franchises and hundreds of vehicles to give you more choices. Plus, Community offers an exclusive 3-3 warranty on pre-owned vehicles and 10-year, 250,000-mile warranty on new. Need more reasons why? Stop or visit CommunityAutoGroup.com.
Because nobody beats a community deal, nobody.
Move on to item number 3, recommendation from the selection committee for an architect.
Yeah, the selection committee met last week. We discussed the 2 architects that we interviewed, and consensus was unanimous to engage FEH Associates Incorporated out of Des Moines to do our designing of the courthouse, I guess is what you want to call it. They have the best program, I mean, I thought, and there's a picture on the door over there of one of their sketches, they called it, not a proposal, not a, you know, it's just a picture for everybody to look at. And I think that's one of the things that caught everybody's eye when we did get the RFPs, is that, you know, these folks were engaged, they were already thinking, you know, they actually read the RFP, I think. So, anyway, with that, I guess I'd make a motion that we engage FEH Associates Incorporated.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to agree with the selection committee for an architect of FEH out of Des Moines, Iowa. Roll call vote, vote plan.
Aye.
Aye.
Morrell, aye. Motion carried. Well, it is 8:45. For the public hearing on proposed action to institute proceedings to enter into a loan agreement in the principal amount not to exceed $6.5 million. Supervisors, any?
Well, I've had many comments given to me. For every one that said, tried to renovate the courthouse, I probably had 15 people said that it's time, the building is tired, and it's time that we look for putting up a new alternative.
Same here.
Yeah, that's pretty much comment you received.
County auditor.
Well, I yesterday did receive petitions here, approximately 784 of them. Down here on the table.
Okay. And you're going to review those
Yep,
next
right.
week or so.
Yep. 5 days to make sure that they're all eligible voters, eligible electors, and residents and reside in Mitchell County.
They have to reside in Mitchell
Yeah.
County also.
What does that-
I did see one that I had questioned whether it resides in Mitchell County.
What does resides mean?
Yes.
It's a question of
I know
law.
what I think it means, but I'm just curious. what the
Legally?
law- Yeah.
The legal definition of what you call your home. That's what the law is.
I think that's the one trust bank.
Okay? I don't know.
Well.
But I can, and the perfect example is someone who lives in Iowa their entire life, goes into a nursing home in Minnesota for 3 or 4 years, still can say, I'm an Iowa resident, even though I may live in the nursing home in Minnesota for 3 or 4 years. I still call Iowa home. And the law is whatever you call your home is your residence. And that's why you end up in court fighting sometimes about what your residence is. But the law is, you know, there's long poetic language about where you return to put your head on your pillow at night, you know.
Well,
I know some people go to these states that have no state tax and for 6 months and 1 day or something and claim that as their residence.
Some people will go there for 2 or 3 weeks and claim it as their residence. Put your voter registration card there, your homestead exemption, your, you know, all of your driver's license, your car registration. Have them all registered in that state, and you say, that's my home state. And then Iowa comes in and says, no, it isn't, and then they end up fighting whether it is or isn't.
well, I know like for homestead, you gotta live in your primary residence for 6 months out of the year to get homestead.
instead.
Well, County Attorney Watt, realizing that this is probably not an area of your expertise, but there was only 447 signatures required to have this reverse referendum placed on the ballot. With over 780 signatures on the petition, can we just accept the petition without reviewing all of them and taking up a lot of time? And
I'm gonna just give you my general opinion. If you just skim over it, unless you see 300 and some names that are obviously wrong, I don't know why you would want to waste the time verifying every signature and every address. And I mean,
That's
the
what I
board
was
has basically said, if the people want an election, we'll have an election.
Sure.
So why go through the formalities of reviewing everything when the board really has no objection to having it put on the special election? I would just say accept the petition. You don't have the hearing today, and you go to special, you put it on the general ballot. That's my opinion.
do we need a motion to accept the petition, or do we just, is it just accepted?
The board shall either by resolution declare the proposal to issue the bonds to have been abandoned, or shall direct the county commissioner of elections to call a special election upon the question of issuing the bonds. But yours, since you can do it in a general election, you're not abandoning the bonds, so you just direct the county commissioner of elections to put it on the general election.
Can we do that next week?
Yeah, I would do it now, but
Well, we
I mean,
don't
there's a
have it.
difference.
Right, I think it's not on the agenda, and I think there are documents
Okay,
that you'll want to adopt
okay.
the resolution.
Were there any comments from the public?
You're gonna let us come in?
No.
Yes. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I think I would put some time limits in that on,
Right, we'll try and keep it brief because there are a lot of people here today.
There's a sign-up sheet, everybody that wants to speak should sign this.
Okay.
You didn't know that?
Kristen Olenberg has already signed. Could she speak, please?
Okay, certainly, go ahead.
Hi, Kristen Olenberg. I'm with Papa John Law Firm in Mason City, and I'm here today on behalf of the Friends of the Courthouse, who collected the almost 800 signatures. And pursuant to Iowa law, we are now required to put the issue on the ballot in the general election in November, and that's what we've wanted all along, as it should be. Again, we just submit that the board has acted a little too hastily in trying to push the new courthouse forward. There's been no serious thought, much less study or research into the feasibility or the cost effectiveness of potentially renovating the historically significant courthouse as opposed to tearing it down and building new. There have been offers of grant money that would have paid for most, if not all, of the cost of deciding whether that was even feasible, and the board just seems to have ignored the information out there and pushed forward. We don't know if it's feasible to renovate the courthouse, what it would cost, if it would be effective, but you don't either, and we just want the information provided to everyone to make an informed decision. Now, it appears we're going to get what we've wanted all along, that being a vote by all the citizens of Mitchell County as opposed to a decision by the three of you as to a very important issue which is going to affect everyone in Mitchell County for years to come, and which ultimately is going to be paid for by everyone in Mitchell County. However, it seems that the board is moving forward in the direction they want and going ahead before the vote, 3 to 4 months before the vote, and spending tens of thousands of dollars on an architect, and the architects are spending hours upon hours building plans and coming up with proposals when the vote in November may well be no. Are we going to get that money back? Are the citizens of Mitchell County going to get that money back if the vote is no? I don't think so. You're only spending public money to push through the new courthouse plan. You aren't spending any public money to look at renovating the courthouse. Legally, you cannot use public funds to lobby for a specific position, and it's our opinion that that's what's going on by just paying an architect to put out plans for a new courthouse and disseminating those to all the people without looking at the other side of the story. So we just ask that the board quit putting the cart before the horse and quit spending the citizens' money on Plan B when the vote in November may well be for Plan A. Thank you for your consideration.
Ma'am?
Yes.
You said we did not basically do any research in that proper. Did you read the Scott and Anderson report?
Not in entirety, no.
So
But
in
I've
other
looked-
words, you're accusing us of basically not taking full consideration, and yet again, we had a report that we paid that basically looked at both renovation and new, and you're telling me you haven't read it.
We feel that you have not, from a historical standpoint, from a historical preservation standpoint, looked at preserving the courthouse and the cost of that versus what you're pushing for. We feel in a historical preservation standpoint.
So you're saying the Scott and Anderson report is invalid, is that what you're trying to say?
We're saying that there were grants out there for historical preservation that you did not take a look at and did not.
How many of those grants do we need to go through? 5, 10, 15, 20?
One.
You didn't go through any.
I have to ask too, do you think you would get an unbiased opinion from the state historical architects?
Yeah.
Well, no
Would you
less
get
biased
unbiased?
than an architect that wants to build a new courthouse.
Part of the reason we went with Scott and Anderson is because we asked them two things. What would it cost us to rehabilitate this building? What would it cost us to build new? They brought back their two proposals or whatever, and it was gonna cost more to rehabilitate. Now, if we'd have taken and asked that same question to the state historical people, what would they have told us?
We don't know.
Well, I've asked all these architects that came and toured this building, would we have gotten an unbiased opinion from the state historical people? And they all said, no, you would have gotten a biased opinion.
Well, we do not believe that. And
So,
we just feel that you need to look at all the information.
My feeling is we probably just wasted more money. And I wanna ask, how many of you people, raise your hand, how many of these people have ever taken a tour of this courthouse? How many have been up in the attic? Tell me what you saw.
I saw a historic building that is irreplaceable, that is the third oldest courthouse in Iowa, that is one of the very few buildings in continuous use since 1858, and would be difficult to repair, but it's really possible. I've been in the attic several times, and I saw the history of Mitchell County and its brave pioneers up there.
Yes,
You
Judy.
didn't see anything that
Scott
made
and
you nervous.
Anderson never said in their report, and I read it, they never said it could not be rehabilitated. We've had all sorts of people, probably everybody in this room has gone with Dave on a tour of the courthouse, including the state historical architect who and his associate walked through, and Dave showed them everything that was on your photos, everything that was on that they could see without tearing out ceilings and walls. And they met with the public on many of our meetings, and they said in their opinion they've seen buildings that are much worse off that could be rehabilitated. In their opinion, they thought it could be rehabilitated. I mean, everybody understands there's, tremendous
But the part
Cost.
the part you're leaving out is they also said it would still be a dysfunctional building.
Right.
No, well, that's
That-
that's another of my comments, is that I don't feel the three of you really had a vision, really wanted to save the courthouse. If you'd wanted to save the courthouse, I think you could have had a vision to look at how delivery of service could be met if you discuss the issues on delivery of service.
I saw Jack Porter's letter the other day in the paper, and we also got a copy here.
And I don't think
And
you ever
his-
had a committee that looked at how service could be
And
delivered
his comment
differently.
was, we could move some of these offices in the courthouse out into other buildings. And so how does that provide function? I mean, I've heard that comment before too, you could put them in a storefront uptown or,
And have you had a public discussion on how delivery of service could be accomplished, keeping the same square footage of this courthouse?
well,
You
that's,
know,
we're
there are
gonna
many
have that
options,
discussion with
and-
FEH,
And
yes.
what's gonna happen 2-3 years down the road? Are you gonna need all the square footage that your new building is suggesting, you know, I don't think you're going to. And I think
Well,
some
bring
of
your
the
crystal ball
functions
over so
could
we can
be-
look into it too, because we're just going by what the court, Judge Drew's been here, Scott Hand from the judicial, every one of them has gone through this courthouse. They all say the same thing. We got the most dysfunctional courthouse in the 8 counties that they serve.
How many do they serve?
8 counties, I just said.
You know, I keep hearing about the safety of the citizens and the people that work in a courthouse, right? Isn't that one of your main concerns?
Right, because
Safety,
we
is
go,
that right?
Partially one of the things.
That's, well, you know what? I don't think that people have to worry as much about that as they do the sign that you have on the supervisor's door over here.
Which
I
sign
think
is
that's
that?
terrible.
What sign is that?
we're not here to
That
talk
gun
about
over
signs,
there.
Bob.
Yeah, we're not here to talk about signs.
Oh, yeah.
John,
You're here to listen to a taxpayer of this county.
we're here to discuss the bond issue.
I want to talk about that gun. It's on your door.
It's not my door.
It's a supervisor's door.
It's Mitchell County's door.
Well, I'm sure Mitchell County doesn't want a gun on their door. It makes me sick when I look at that.
Take it off.
You see,
Take it off.
I didn't put it on,
I didn't
mister.
either.
And I'll tell you what, we
I
have
didn't either.
shootings all over the United States in courthouses. And stuff like that that brings it on.
I didn't put it there.
Now,
Take
you
it off.
can laugh it off all you want. And I know, I talked to you the last time I was here. Big deal. It is a big deal. A big, big deal. Kid stuff. Take it off.
Betty?
I had prepared some remarks which I would give to the TV station that's here and the auditor and so on. But basically, many things have been said that I had prepared. But I would like to just say this, that for the past several weeks, ever since the legal notice appeared in the paper, there have been over 20 people carrying petitions around the county, giving people an opportunity to have their voices heard. I want to tell you that it wasn't Friends of the Courthouse specifically that were carrying petitions. In fact, there were many, many people from both sides of the issue that carried the petitions, and all they really wanted was a right for their voices to be heard. And we said, when they came and asked for petitions, we said, hey, this isn't about which side you're on. Build new, tear down, whatever, you know, preserve. Because honestly, you know, given the facts, and I will say that, you know, so far in my going over the minutes, there was $8,500, $5,000 spent, Scott and Anderson, on a courthouse assessment analysis / new courthouse. There was another $3,500 spent for a needs assessment. Then the Stallsmith from Wallace Holland, Kassner and Smiths, of which I would like to ask clarification at the time I was deleted. But Lowell, thank you, Lowell, went over with me. And what you got from them for $2,377.45 was actually a sheet of paper saying that they would do a structural evaluation of the courthouse, and it would cost, with their contingency fund, $79,040. And at that time, I believe, I don't know which one of you was, but the minutes reference that you decided not to pursue that contingent upon some grants that you might receive, and that grant wasn't received. However, the grant was received, the state grant and aid, and $10,000 some was spent for Scott and Anderson, the 2 reports, plus the Stallsmith. And actually, the state grant and aid would have cost the county for their match $4,683. And I dare say that, you know, the Friends of the Courthouse, I guess I want to tell you, our real intent on this is for you to have all of the facts before proceeding. Do we know whether or not it would cost way more to rehabilitate? Joel, please, I'm talking. We would not be so foolish as to ask you to rehabilitate something that would be way out in left field. This morning I had a call real early, saying that yesterday when we presented the petitions, Supervisor Walk was there, and I saw a flash. He snapped our pictures, and it said on his Facebook this morning that the two, Mary Janae and myself, would prefer to rehabilitate at a cost exceeding $5 million. You know, Stan, that isn't true. So please, let's just, you know, get real. But anyway, I do want to say that there are several concerns of citizens that haven't been mentioned. And one of them is the placement of the Veterans Monument. And one is the selection committee. And the selection committee was pretty much made up, it wasn't representative of the county. It was pretty much made up, half of the committee pretty much worked in the courthouse. Joel, Lowell, I believe I was told that the custodian Dave Hartle was on it. And also, let me see, the treasurer, Pam, and Sheriff Yonker was on it. And I think, you know, I read his report some time ago. I think he was certainly fair in his assessment. And there weren't many from outside of the city of Osage, two, I believe, Judge McKinley and Deanna Eastman. So it wasn't really very representative. Also, there were no veterans on the committee. And I want to just speak briefly about that Veterans Monument. Actually, the Veterans Monument was started in 1997, and it was by a committee made up of veterans of the 5 Legion posts and their auxiliaries, and VFW posts and their auxiliary, the Vietnam Veterans of America, and the Sons of the American Legion. Those people really were the spearheaders for this whole project, and they were the ones that put all the money in to begin with. The money was raised throughout this county by people that had an interest in a Veterans Monument. Not one dime of county money went into the Veterans Monument, the placement thereof. The auditor's office, and Sandra can testify to that, the auditor's office and her employees raised all the money for the flagpole, which actually, you know, you'd think the county did have a flagpole.
Okay, thank you. We're getting way off the subject here.
No,
Betty.
Bob.
Yes, we are.
I just want to finish about the Veterans Monument and the placement.
30 seconds.
And the placement.
30 seconds.
The other thing is you cannot use public money to influence a vote or advocate for a vote one way or the other. So I would say that if that happens, you need to have a committee, no public money, and you need to file a finance disclosure. Thank you,
Yep.
Bob.
Thank you, Betty. Okay, anyone else? What's your name?
My name is Susan Vernal. I grew up in this town. Honestly, this is our county courthouse. It doesn't belong to you three. And
We know that.
I feel that you aren't listening to us because we got almost 800 signatures on the petition. Wouldn't that tell you where's the petition to tear it down? You know, you say you got one call to save it and 20 not to. I don't believe that for a second. And you need to listen to us. We voted you in. You work for us, not against us. We don't work for you. We put you there. We pay your salaries. We pay for this courthouse. We pay for the people who work here. And you don't listen to us. And you better start.
Is that a threat?
No, I'm just saying you better start listening to us. We are the citizens. We are the taxpayers, and we voted.
And it looks like it's going to be on the ballot.
Good. It will show you how we all feel.
Penny.
I just want to say, contrary to the belief that, you know, preservation architect would have come in with a small number, I really think that the $5 million was too low. One of the reasons when we had that selection committee, the architect we selected, the county courthouse that had worked with them said they were very accurate in their cost estimate for renovation. I really think that a thorough evaluation of the courthouse by a preservation architect may have come in with a number higher. And you know what, as I told you before, I really do believe that might have helped sell a new courthouse. People would have said, you know, you had it evaluated by a preservation architect. Yes, it can be saved. I've never heard an architect say it could not be saved. The question is, what will it cost? And I just don't think we have you know, I mean, I asked Scott and Anderson before you hired him at that meeting, I said, do you have any experience in historic buildings? And they said, no. I mean, I'm sure they're good architects, but their website all shows all new construction. I think preservation architects who've worked in old buildings, they anticipate those things that maybe they wouldn't have thought about that they're going to have to fix. That's why I think a preservation architect probably would have come in with a higher number than the $5 million. I don't know. I mean, I'm not an architect myself, but I suspect, you know, they have no interest in coming in with a bogus small number because their firm's reputation's on the line. They want to come in with an accurate number, as Dallas County said they did. They said it would cost $11 million. It came in at 10.98, whatever. It was very close. I think, you know, my intent was to get an accurate number about renovation. I think more people would be willing to accept, I mean, myself, I love the courthouse. I can go either way. What will it really cost to renovate it? I just don't think we have that. And what would it look like? And then if people look at that and say, you know, it's too much money, and, you know, they would come up with a redesign. The other reason we selected that architect that you then decided not to hire was that the counties that hired him said they were very good at coming up with use of space in the courthouse to make their courthouse more efficient. We never had a chance to look at that report. People might have looked at that and looked at new and said, you know, we'd rather go with new. I'd like to see the county united around the decision, and I think the best way to unite the county is what it would have been to have the most accurate information. I sincerely, I mean, I know Scott and Anderson did their best on that, but since I haven't had the experience in historic buildings, I think they estimated too low on renovation. That was my own thought. And I think if people saw the real cost of renovation, you know, they might have said, you know, it's time to say goodbye to the courthouse. But we don't know. I don't know that. I mean, I might be wrong too. I'm not an architect. You know, that was my only appeal to you guys. To the best way to unite the community is to get real numbers in front of us. And when I pointed out to you that the grant that I wrote included a needs assessment, and you said you wanted 2 needs assessments. I mean, you hired Scott and Anderson anyway, and for a little bit more than what that you paid them for that needs assessment, you would have had a needs assessment and I think more accurate information on the renovation cost. And that would have, I think, helped unite the community around a decision. I mean, the decision went forward without the information, and I think if you win your vote and you tear down the courthouse, it will be like every other county. You go to Mason City, you go to every other county where they've torn down their courthouse, and 50 years later, people are still upset about it. I think there would have been more chance of uniting the community around this vote if there had been accurate information on the renovation. I just don't think we had that accurate information.
Okay, thank you, Penny.
Penny, you worked with Stan Stallsmith quite a bit. I remember back when that all started, and we hired Stan to come over, and I know Bob was here, and we'd taken him all through the courthouse. And then you came up with this idea that possibly we could get a grant to help us with this $79,000 bill that he came up with. What happened with that grant?
Well, I think the reason we didn't get it is the State Historic Society looked at what is his, I mean, I think they thought, first of all, that is way too high to do what he said he was going to do. Since they've worked a lot with old buildings, they know some, like, you know, you met with that architect from, I think it was RDG when you walked through. He said, there are structural engineers who I work with who specialize in historic buildings. I mean, they go out, there's no training, there's no class in it, but on their own, they have taught themselves how historic materials work. You know, the whole thing was, I can call them, they can come in 4 hours and give me an accurate analysis. The problem with why we didn't get the grant with Stanley Stallsmith is he asked for too much money, and I think they looked at his experience specifically in what we needed, and most of his experience is with bridges, not that much with evaluating historic structures. So I think we got the other one because it was more directed at...
Resume is familiar with the Secretary of the Interior standards for the treatment of historical properties and guidelines for preserving, rehabilitating, restoring, reconstructing historic buildings.
I can read those standards and then I can say I'm familiar with the standards, but that's different than applying the standards to historic buildings.
He was the senior architect, or the engineer on the Winnebago County renovation over there.
I don't think that was an evaluation of the entire building.
Tell everybody what we were going to get with that historical preservation grant.
What we were going to get was a needs assessment. We were going to get a structural evaluation of building and a cost and a timeline. And I think the important thing is, I don't think that $5 million was an accurate cost. That was my own opinion.
Well, no, but...
I mean, look, Stanley said almost $80,000. I think, you know, maybe somewhere in between $5,000 and $80,000 I mean, that was just to evaluate
It
it.
cost so much is because Stan was gonna come in, and we couldn't see what the stairway and how it was framed. So he said we were gonna have to hire local contractors to come in, they were gonna have to cut holes all over this courthouse so they could actually see the structure.
But remember the guy from
But
RDG said?
The guy from the state historical, they weren't going to do that. They were going to give us a 3-ring binder in the end for $14,000 with now you need to do this, you need to do this, and you need to do this, with a lot of pictures. Just like the one you showed us from
No, but that was a
Dallas
different kind of
County,
report.
That cost them $70,000.
No, but that was that was not the kind of report.
You're saying we weren't gonna get a 3-ring binder?
No, we weren't, that wasn't the kind, that was a different kind of report.
But
The
this guy
report, this
wasn't-
would have been evaluation of the structure and a cost and a timeline, exactly what we needed. An accurate cost. I don't think 5 million was accurate. My own opinion, I don't know.
Oh, every architect I've talked to that's come through here said exactly the same thing.
Right. And I think if we
They said
had an architect,
5.3, you're gonna wanna put on a 40 or 50% contingency on that, and they aren't sure that would cover it.
that's why architects that have specialized in historic buildings, they're gonna know a little bit more accurately, okay, no, it's, because they've run into those problems in other buildings, so they can say, no, it's gonna cost, if we'd had an accurate number, but we don't have that now. We just don't have it. We don't know. I could be wrong, I'm not an architect. I might suspect it, you know, but I don't know. Until we have it evaluated by a preservation architect, we don't know.
Well, I thought
Okay,
Stanley would be
anybody
a lot
else?
better.
Penny,
But-
aren't we forgetting too that the state was gonna reimburse us 1/4 of the cost as long as
Well-
all the guidelines were
No,
met?
no, it would have been, there would have been a cost of 4,000, whatever. There would have been a cost associated with that grant.
And they would have paid us.
No,
reimbursed us
the whole
1/4
grant was
the cost of
$14,000.
rehabbing.
The county's cost was,
No, I mean, what, if we rehab the courthouse, the state would have reimbursed us 1/4 of the
Well,
cost of rehabbing
if
we met the guidelines.
well, it's not that easy. If you chose to go that way, there's grants you can get. There's a possibility of tax credits, which Davis County has pursued, but that's a lot of work. I'm not saying it's impossible. It would have been a lot of work, and people would have had to decide, is it worth it or not? But we don't know what the cost is, really, for rehab. That's all I'm saying. We don't know the real cost.
But building a new one, we get absolutely no money from the state.
No.
Okay, anybody else?
Yes, I
Mary?
have a question for the three of you. You have voted today to hire an architect 4 months in advance of the election, 3.5 months. Why? Why are you going before we see how the people feel? And what kind of money are you going to spend, and where are you going to get it, before the bonds are issued, if your side should happen to win? Why have you done this? This is a democratic society, a democratic vote. And I'd like to know why you hired an architect and are planning to spend money with this architect before the vote.
Because our council said we can't.
Because your council said you could.
Right.
You mean your legal counsel?
Yes.
Is that true, Mr. County Attorney?
I don't think you're referring to me, but.
No, no.
Oh, really? Oh, you're referring to your bond counsel.
Right.
Your bond
As long as
counsel
everything's
said that-
factual, we can do whatever, and we can continue on our process.
And is that your feeling about democracy? That because the bond counsel, for heaven's sake, said that
Well,
you...
Mary, how did you suppose the three of us got here if it wasn't through democracy? We were voted here.
Right, but we're having a legal vote with everyone in the
will.
county. And
And we
you're going
will,
to
this
spend
fall,
money.
it'll
What
tell
if
this,
we win?
it'll tell the story, I guess.
Exactly, how are you going to, what are you going to do with the plans you've already got?
What plans?
I
And
mean,
the money you've spent.
the money you've spent with the architect.
We've been spending money right along on all this studies.
No, this isn't a study. You've hired an architect to design the
Right.
courthouse. And is that going to start right away?
Good.
It could. Well, will it?
Depends on their schedule.
Oh my gosh. So you are going to
They're,
spend
they're gonna,
money
they're gonna
towards
come,
the
they'll
vote.
come and they'll do charrettes. I don't know if any of you know what that is, but sounds like they will get the different departments in and go through and basically do the study needs themselves again and see how the courthouse works, what's all going to be here. They will be working with Scott Hand and of the, what's his, judicial administrator or something like that.
Would it not
Judge
make
Drew.
sense to do that after November?
Why delay it?
Because you want.
Laughing at you. Justify spending thousands of dollars?
Wow.
Because
There's not gonna be
vote may be
thousands
no.
and thousands of dollars.
So, what if your vote fails? What if you cannot issue the bonds? Then what? You would have spent all that money, which you're getting where? Where are you getting the money? To pay for this? From TIF? No, I don't think so. You're getting it from our real estate taxes, right?
No, actually it's TIF.
It's TIF? You're getting the money from TIF? Oh, how is that working?
Works fine, why?
I beg your pardon?
It works fine.
No, I mean, how do you get the money for TIF to pay?
Because if you remember, the county put all of its properties in the TIF district. We're all in the urban renewal. You're
Right.
sitting in an urban renewal district, so we can use TIF dollars for any public
But
purpose there.
What if you can't issue the bond, you'll have plans for a new courthouse?
Well, I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
And you don't see a problem with the democratic thing you're doing? And you're
Do you see
using
a problem? We may, what if we have to move out of this courthouse in a couple of weeks?
Are you planning to?
No. No. But what, if, like I always said, one more thing falls off this building, we will be moving out.
Well, that's true of all our houses too, I mean, that's.
Well, I don't think any of
Again,
you people
I'm
live in a
finished
house that's
talking.
built
I'm
constructed
saying
like
you're
this
going to use
courthouse,
TIF
but
money, and you're
we
going to.
can argue this forever and
Right.
ever and ever.
And you're going to use TIF money, and you're going to proceed as if you're going to win the vote. And if you don't
Glass
win
is half
it,
full in my life.
I beg your pardon?
The glass is half full in my life.
And if you don't win the vote, you're just gonna say you're sorry that you spent all that money?
No.
You're not even gonna say you're sorry, okay? Thank you.
Mary, stay tuned.
Do you have a clue in terms of dollars for this architect? Just based,
They were the cheaper of the two. Theirs were about $100 per hour less for their principal architect. I think it was like 145. The OPN was like $235 an hour. OPN was 8 1/4 to like 8 3/4% of the whole total.
but when you get to the point in November or some point where you have some preliminary plans or some kind of plan.
Plans won't be done until after the vote.
Okay, so you really don't have a,
I think, but if I understood it right, what they said, what they were going to do is they were going to basically proceed, get an idea of what the county needs, but as far as the design and specifications and things like that would not come until after the vote.
okay, and you don't have a,
They're not gonna put a lot of money into this right out the gate. I mean, you can see that they gave us a little picture there the other day and,
but we have no real, what would be your best guess in terms of dollars?
For what?
To just get something,
Well, they really didn't say. Maybe they were gonna do it free gratis. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I think they feel too that, we're probably gonna go forward. We're gonna do something here, but.
okay. I was just curious, because you have no, sometimes when you start on something like that, it's this much an hour and
Yeah.
you,
And they all have that,
Yeah.
they all have their hourly rate and the fee for the total project, but they all also said in their RFPs that that's all negotiable if they got the RFP or got hired. So we'll see.
but it all comes down to a percentage of the total thing when it's done.
For me, it all comes down to safety
Okay.
of this people in this building and anywhere else.
Do you plan to have on hand a project manager when the project moves forward in the building itself? Because I think that's very important, and there is a cost involved in that.
We're
And
looking into that also.
I understood by someone that had been at the meeting that you thought that would be too costly, Joel, to have a project manager?
We looked at them all. No, we didn't say that. We said we would look at that also.
And you mentioned just now negotiating that cost was negotiable, so does that mean, I think those architect, was their fee 8.5%?
No, that was OPN, we took the
Oh, that was
lesser of the
OPM.
two.
What was the percentage for FEH?
7.25, 7.75, if I don't have it in front of me, but that's what I remember.
But it could be negotiable?
That's what,
And
you
so.
read the line after that.
Who would negotiate that?
Well, I s-
The three of you, the cost?
Well, I suppose, yeah.
Well, I didn't know if the committee, the selection committee was part of that or what, so that's what I'm asking.
Who was on that committee when they did the jail, Betty? Or weren't
I
you
don't
there?
know, I wasn't here
Oh,
when
you
they
weren't
did
here.
the jail.
Okay.
No, I was not.
Okay.
That was after my time, Joel, and I
Okay.
think it was in
Who was
between
on-
me and Stan, wasn't it, Stan?
Were
Stan
you here
wasn't
when they put this edition on then?
Yes, I was.
Okay, who was on the committee then?
We had a, Jean Gerlach, on the committee itself. You know, I don't recall, but there was a selection committee because they said there was a need for
So
this.
you three made the decision.
It was for an addition, not a
For an
demolition.
addition, yeah, for an
Wow.
addition, space needs.
It's a pretty good sized
Space
addition.
needs, yeah.
I could show you a few things on that edition too.
Okay, is there anybody else that wants to speak? Dale?
Yeah, well, thanks, Bob. I have no opinion about whether we got a new courthouse or fix the old one. I'm completely undecided. I picked up about 30 signatures of just my neighbors and friends with very little trouble because they all felt there ought to be a vote on it. I'd like to touch just a bit on the TIF issue. You know, if I had $1,000 in my right-hand pocket and $1,000 in my left-hand pocket, if I spent either one of those $1,000, it's taxpayers' money. If I'm the taxpayer, what I am, there's no difference between TIF money and your general obligation bonds. It's all taxpayers' money. The only real difference is most of it comes from the wind turbines that are located in the Riceville and St. Andrews School District. So they would pay a disproportionate share of the money, but it's still all taxpayers' money, any way you want to cut it. Now, I know Stan argues about that, but I can tell you, I spoke with the Legislative Service Bureau, you know who those folks are. I spoke with the Department of Management in Des Moines, and I spoke with Dave Swenson, who was the economist at Iowa State, who came to the Joint Committee on reforming TIF during this last year. He spent an hour testifying before those folks. The House, Republican-controlled House, actually passed a bill that would remove you from even being able to even TIF wind turbines because they believed it was unfair. Came to the Senate and by one vote it went the other way. Obviously the governor is for changing it also because he recognized the unfairness of it. If he wasn't for it, the Republican-controlled House would not have passed it. So, but it's still all taxpayers' money. No matter, there's no free money out there. It comes from taxpayers.
You're right, the government has no money. They have nothing except what they take away from you or me.
Well, it's $700,000 for us in Riceville and St. Andrews School District every year, and another $475,000 from the state for tiffing these wind turbines. That's what it is. And that goes on for 25 years because you got the money spent already.
20, I think, 20.
No, 12.
12.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're down to, they'll be done in 12 years.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah,
But there'll be more roads.
June of 2021 will be the first one, and the second one will be June of 2022, the second one. But not that it matters, but that's the timeline.
But if next year you spend more money, you could extend another 20 years. Who knows? Did all the things you want to do, you'd already be there. The
Was
gas
that
line.
just
and-
for the roads, Bob?
Excuse me, what's that, Betty?
Those two were for the issue for the roads, is that correct?
Correct, those were
Okay.
for the
Would
TIF
have
for the
nothing to
roads.
do with the other, with any new.
Right,
Thank
this
you.
was just the roads, just an update. Anybody else? Okay, I guess we can close this public hearing at 9:28.